I'm back in my kitchen again today. I've had a little bit of a jaunt. I've left the confinement of our farm and gone to visit another farmer, which we're totally allowed to do, respecting social distancing, of course. Anyway, came back from my friend Karen's house. Now Karen is a fabulous gardener. She creates all sorts of beautiful flower beds and flowers for cut flowers for weddings and for people to go to her farm to go and help themselves to cut and obviously buy flowers. And she also brings on seeds and seedlings and plants and everything. She's absolutely amazing and has got some awesome flower beds going on. So whilst I was there today discussing some farm stuff, I had a little bit of a harvest of some of her flowers. So I wanted to share that with you as to what I'm going to do today. So I've got some incredible, God, they smell so good, roses. Just walk past, the smell is just tantalising. So I'm going to make some rose water with this. I've got a wedding later on this year, which is a Middle Eastern theme, and the dessert is going to be baklava, which obviously we need rose water for. So I'm going to make rose water today, which I'm then going to freeze so it's ready for the wedding. Then I've got some incredible lilac, which I'm going to turn into a lilac oil, which can then be used in cosmetics to make a lip salve or something like that. And I've also got some marigolds, calendula, so I'm going to dry these leaves, also make a salve from that. But to start with, I'm just going to use the roses into some filtered water, filtered or distilled, whichever, either way they're being purified. I'm going to boil up 200-300 mils of water, add the roses and just let them cook and simmer for about 20 to 30 minutes. And that will be my rose water, which you can then, once you've filtered it, you can then freeze it into ice cube trays or whatever, so then you've got your rose water for later on. It will stay in the fridge for a few months, but I'm going to freeze mine so I know that I've got it in portion size. This I'm going to submerge the flower heads into some oil, a base oil, a nice simple one like grapeseed oil, and let that infuse for 4 to 6 weeks. And then obviously I'll filter it, and then I've got some oils to make some soap or some lip salves. And the calendula, marigold, I'm going to dry these petals. Again, I'm going to make some oils, and then I'm going to use that into making lip salves or possibly for soaps. Okay, I'm just going to put the rose petals into a lovely big pan here. You can do this with dried flowers as well, obviously, but if you really want to get the perfume, use fresh flowers as much as possible. Look at that colour, just stunning. Seems quite sad actually, boiling these, but aren't they beautiful? Now I'm going to put in, I'm using filtered water, just enough to cover the petals. If you put in more than that, it will dilute the smell that you're going to get. So to get as much as possible intensity, I think once they start to cook down, they will be well covered. Oh, there's a little creature. We need to save him before we boil him. Come on, little spider, out you come. I'm going to put the pan on and leave it to come up to a boil, and then leave it to simmer for 20 to 30 minutes. So I'm just going to prick out this lovely lilac and then put it in my freshly washed kilner jar. And then I'm going to cover it with some grapeseed oil. And then let it infuse. And I'm just going to cover the flowers . I'm just going to let that infuse between 4 and 6 weeks. I'll put a label on it with today's date. Leave that to infuse, and then I will filter it, and I can use that oil to mix in with some of our lard and turn that into some soap. Lard is a regular byproduct of the pigs, and from a zero waste point of view, I like to make sure that everything gets used, and I will make some lard soap with the lilac. Okay, so the lilac in the jar like this can be infused for 4 to 6 weeks. It's a slow infusion. However, what you can also do if you want a slightly faster result, you can then put this jar in a bain-marie, so obviously get a saucepan with some water in it and let it simmer, and the oil can simmer, and then that will actually infuse it much faster. You'll be able to do an infusion within 1 day. It's okay, it's still lovely, but if you can do it and leave it to wait, that whole sort of delayed gratification, you'll get a far superior oil if you can just leave it in this jar. Give it a little bit of a shake every other day. Keep it in a dark place, you don't want it by the sunlight, and just let that oil infuse. In 4 to 6 weeks, this will be amazing. Another little concoction I want to share with you. This is a nettle tea. I'll show you it up close. It's green. It's not murky. You can see it's nice and clear. There's just lots of leaves in there in that glass. Now I dried a load of nettles, and then I put them in this glass and I filled it up to water to here last night, and I let it infuse overnight. And it's now cold and it's perfect as a refreshing drink. Nettles are naturally anti-inflammatory, so if at the moment you've got any kind of colds or anything and you've got a blocked nose, which I seem to have at the moment, it's hay fever season and the rape seeds are everywhere in flower at the moment, causing my sinuses to go into a world of their own. And because of COVID, we're not allowed to use any anti-inflammatories or nasal sprays or anything like that. So grab yourself a glass of nettle tea. Simple, costs nothing, just a little bit of time. And it tastes, it smells a bit cucumbery. Not that I've got a very good sense of smell at the moment, but I can definitely smell cucumber. And it's not unpleasant, which is a bonus. These calendula flowers I'm going to dry first before I use them, because the water moisture content in the petals will dilute the infusion. So I'm going to dry these first, and then I'm going to submerge them into some sunflower oil. And I'll be able to use the oil in soap making at a later date. Here's the calendula flowers that I've just put on some kitchen paper onto a plastic tray outside on the garden table, and going to leave them in the sunshine and the wind to help them dry. I'll rotate them in a few hours time. It may take a couple of days for them to dry out, and then they'll be perfect to use into an oil infusion for soap making. The flowers have now been simmering for about 25 minutes with the lid on a really gentle simmer. So I'm just going to turn the heat off and then wait for them to cool, and then when it's cool I will filter them. You see the colour, it's absolutely stunning, and the smell is really intense in the kitchen right now. There's a few petals that have gone through the holes in the colander, so I will refilter this just using a coffee filter, and then I will pop it into some, either you can put it into ice cube trays, into individual bits, and then freeze them as individual portions, or I've got some small little pots that I will put it in, and then I've got lots of ingredients for the summer ahead. So I just want to do a little recap as to what I've done this afternoon. This is my end product. This is my lovely rose water, which I have cooked the rose petals in filtered water for about 25 minutes, just steaming them with the lid on, then filtered it and then just popped it in these little pots which I'm going to freeze. Rose water can be used for cooking in all sorts of different things. I'm going to use it in baklava. It's a very traditional Middle Eastern ingredient. You can use it on your face. It's a really good skin toner. Plenty of properties. If you've got a headache, a little sip of it is really good. It's also good for anti-anxiety and anti-depression. So a little bit in the fridge. You don't have to drink much, but just a little bit. That helps keep you a bit perky. And I made some, this is grapeseed oil with lilac, and this is just infusing. So this could be like a 4 to 6 week infusion just as it is in a jar. Just keep it moving a little bit, squash the flowers down. If you want a faster infusion, put it into a bain-marie with the lid off and let this simmer on the gas ring for about 2 hours, and then just put it on the lid like that. And this one is here's one I did earlier. This is just using dried lavender from last year's harvest. So I had some dried lavender. I did exactly that. I put this on the hob with the lid off with some grapeseed oil, nice simple neutral oil. Put the lavender heads in and then just let it simmer for about three hours. And then I put the lid on and I've left it in the jar for another couple of weeks. It's really heady, it's very smelly, beautiful. And this can just stay in the jar for another 4 to 6 weeks, and then I will filter it, and then I can use that oil to make soap. So I'll be showing you how to make soap at a different video once these oils are nicely infused. Okay, if you're going to do any of this like yourself at home, please just put a little message down in the bottom, ask me. I'm more than happy to be contacted, and I'd love to hear about the projects that you're doing. Take care now, bye bye.